Kevin Johnson Jr. is scheduled to be put to death today, most likely by lethal injection. This man leaves behind a 19-year-old daughter, Corey Ramey, who was already without a mother and now will be without a father. This individual, Kevin Johnson Jr., was locked up for many years for killing a law enforcement officer, shooting him to death. And today I want to talk about this case, and I want to talk about the daughter, right, who's going to be going through her own period of grieving and mourning, and what we as a community can learn and glee from this type of situation. Okay. Now, who is we as a community? Well, obviously I'm an African American, so it's going to involve the African American community. Far too often we see and hear of situations like this happening. You know, it's a lot of brothers in jail and prison over things that didn't have to be, didn't have to be. And when you're missing birthdays, when you're missing, events and different things like this, when you got to get taken off of this earth behind some foolishness or behind a situation that spun out of control, at what point do we stop and say, look, we gotta understand, we gotta get some understanding. You know what I mean? But it doesn't just stop with us as an African American community. By default, it's going to impact the rest of the world. And so this message is for everyone, really. Okay. So I'll go ahead and share my screen here. Last minute hearing scheduled day before Kevin Johnson's execution in Missouri. Okay. The judge actually denied the 19-year-old daughter the ability to see her father die by lethal injection. They have a law in Missouri that bans anyone from under the age of 21 from actually viewing an execution. Okay. We have to understand this man's story, as brutal as it is and as harsh as it is, for whatever it is, and ultimately his death should not be in vain. We should learn from this situation. We all should. We all can. Okay. But there's his beautiful daughter. Okay. The fate of a Missouri man will be determined next week. Kevin Johnson is scheduled to be executed today, the 29th of November. Okay. But they were saying here a last minute hearing may slow down the process. That didn't happen. Okay. They were not able to overturn this situation. Okay. And this guy's scheduled to be put to death. Okay. Oral arguments will take place on Monday in Jefferson City in front of the Missouri Supreme Court in an effort to delay Johnson's execution. Okay. And those efforts failed, unfortunately. Okay. Now here it says Johnson, 37, killed a Kirkwood police officer, William McKentry, in 2005. Okay. And condolences, obviously we're talking about, I don't even know how many years later, 15 years or 16 years later, but condolences, of course, to his family and all of that. Johnson at the time was 19. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do here is talk about why this man killed him. Okay. Why Johnson killed McKentry. What was going on through his mind to make him do something like this? Okay. Because ultimately he used his reason to try to get some level of mercy from the jury. He never denied killing him. All the evidence pointed to him as the shooter. Okay. And when you look at the case, it's going to be clear to you that he was, in fact, the shooter. He never denied it, but he tried to give his reasoning, and the jury was not buying it. The jury was not buying the reason for him killing him. Okay. We're going to talk about that here. Okay. And we're going to examine that from an analytical standpoint. Okay. From an emotional standpoint as well. And obviously from a legal standpoint, we already know the outcome, but we're going to re-examine that from a legal standpoint as well. Okay. It says Wednesday, people who grew up with Johnson gathered at the Kirkwood Recreation Center to call for an alternative to the death penalty. Some of those supporters included Johnson's former teachers. 37-year-old guy, still a young man. He is simply asking that instead of the death penalty and being placed on that gurney and having those needles to be placed in his arm, he's simply asking for life without parole. He's well aware he will die in prison, but in the years that he has left, he can make an incredible difference in our world. He already is, said Pam Stanfield, who was Johnson's principal when he was in kindergarten. This is heartbreaking. This is heartbreaking. He contributes to this world in a very positive way and has so much to benefit. We have to look at his humanity. The governor has an amazing opportunity to choose and prioritize life and to grant Kevin clemency. Okay? Meaning that the governor of that state has the ability, and here's that principle, has that ability to save this man's life. Okay? I want to get into now what happened and why it happened. Okay? And here again is him with his daughter. Okay? Johnson's daughter, Corey Ramey, is also working with an attorney at the ACLU National after finding out in the state of Missouri, you have to be 21 years old to witness an execution. So can you guys imagine? This man, her dad, is on death row, and his daughter has to fight to see him get executed. Her whole life from the age of 2, her father was in prison. This is just heartbreaking. Okay, Johnson was 19 when he committed the crime that resulted in the death sentence, okay? The same age as his daughter is now. And the thing that's so interesting about that is at 19, and this is, I think, where their argument probably should have went, is at 19 years of age, you know, your brain is still developing, right? You don't really have the tools. You're nowhere near grown at 19 years of age. So should a 19-year-old be put to death? I'm not saying yes, I'm not saying no. I'm just saying that that is something to think about from a moral standpoint. Is it right to put somebody to death? Now, we understand that it's 16 years later, but he didn't commit the crime as a 37 or 36-year-old man. He committed the crime as a 19-year-old, damn near a boy, right? I mean, he's a man. He's a very, very young man, a baby of a man, you could say, at the age of 19, okay? So that's just something to think about. And they tried to use the 14th Amendment to save this man's life. The judge wasn't going for it, okay? And we get into the story. It says that, you know, she has a very deep bond with her father. I remember reading that, it says here, she does not have any other living parent at this point. I remember reading about the daughter, that her mother had died. And this is so tragic that the mother of this girl was killed by an intimate acquaintance, okay? Very sad, very tragic, okay? And this is the only parent she has left, all right? Now here we have this officer who was shot to death, okay? Now, McKintrey was a husband and father of 3, okay? Husband and father of 3. McKintrey was one of the police officers. This is where it gets interesting, okay? Now we're getting into the story. Okay, McKintrey was one of the officers sent to Johnson's home back in the summer of 2005, serving a warrant for his arrest. Johnson was on probation for assaulting his girlfriend. Okay, I don't know if this girlfriend was the mother of the daughter. We don't know, okay? But he's on probation for assaulting his girlfriend. And police believed he violated probation. So we don't know what he's doing. Maybe he's out smoking weed. Maybe he's out committing some other petty crime. We don't know. But he violated his probation, and they're going there to pick him up. He violated. Okay. Johnson saw officers arrive, waking up his 12-year-old brother, Joseph Bam Bam Long, who ran next door to their grandmother's house. However, the boy suffered from a congenital heart defect, collapsed, and had a seizure. Okay, now let's slow this down. I need you all to understand, this is his 12-year-old little brother. Police there to pick him up. He's 19. His 12-year-old brother wakes up, okay? And he, the little boy, tried to run to his grandmother's house. I read somewhere else, I think, where it said that he told the boy to go over there. Like he told him to go next door to grandma's house to do whatever, to maybe warn them. I don't know. I have no idea. But I don't know if that's true or not. That's just what I heard, okay? Now, this boy, he's suffering from a heart condition. He collapses to the floor and has a seizure. At trial, Johnson testified McKintrey, which is the officer, kept his mother from entering the house to aid his brother, who later died at the hospital. That is his alibi. That is what he's saying. This is why he was upset with this officer. Do y'all understand that this is what he's telling? He's using this as a defense of sorts to explain to the jury his anger to the point of killing. But let's continue. Later that day, McKintrey returned to the neighborhood to check on unrelated reports of fireworks going off. That's when Johnson approached him. Johnson shot the officer. I remember reading he shot him through a window 5 times. Okay. The officer got out of the car at some point, or attempted to get out of the car. And it says here that he then approached the wounded, kneeling officer and shot him again, killing him. Okay. Kevin committed a horrific crime and took away a life that can never be fixed. However, okay, I don't want to get into that anymore. Okay. We have to pause here and we have to do this justice. His alibi, right? Basically, Johnson was blaming this officer for killing his little brother, for his little brother's death, okay? It says that the officer would not allow the mom to go into the house to render aid to the little brother who's having a seizure. So you kept my mom from accessing her baby, my brother, who is dying. The brother's response is rage, is fury, to the point where he now is looking for this cop. He already made it up in his mind. If I see him again, I'm gonna do something. Behold, later that day, time done passed. People setting off fireworks in the evening, right? So we're probably talking 6-8 hours later. He see the officer again and executes him. And it wasn't enough to just shoot him. I got him. He had it in his heart to kill him, to finish what he set out to do. I want to highlight something that he says here. Let's see here if I can find this. Here we have the same story spoken of from the New York Post, right? Here, Johnson saw officers and awoke his 12-year-old brother. Okay. So this is the part that I think deserves merit. It says in an interview earlier this month with St. Louis Public Radio, Johnson recalled kicking his bedroom door off its hinges and then roaming the neighborhood, angry at McKintrey for holding back his mom as Bam Bam convulsed, screaming, "He killed my brother." Later that evening, okay, it says what he did, right? Look at this. "I think as humans, we tend to shift blame," Johnson said in a jailhouse radio interview. "I don't think McKintrey did anything that was wrong that day that I can even blame him for." And this is the part that breaks my heart, is that he didn't learn until it was too late. He didn't take accountability until it was too late. Do you see the danger of allowing your emotions to get the best of you? Let's break this down. Mr. Johnson was going to jail. He was living a criminal life. The police were there to execute a legal search warrant to arrest him legally, lawfully. It's unfortunate what happened to his little brother, but think about this. He would have went to jail, got out of jail. They would have had to deal with the situation with the little brother, but he would have at least been able to support his family. Mr. Johnson took it upon himself to get that weapon and go hunt this man like he was an animal and kill him. That's wrong. Now, am I saying this officer was this 5-star golden whatever? No, maybe that officer was, let's say worst case scenario, the officer, like, I don't want to paint a bad image about a man that's dead, but let's say he was an asshole. Let's say he purposely didn't let the mom in there. Let's say he didn't care. That still don't give you the right to kill that man, to murder him, because you know you have premeditated thought to kill him. That's murder. That's murder. And he hit the nail on the head. He said, we tend to shift blame. The Black community, we can learn from this, family. We can learn so much from this. A lot of the issues that's going on in our community, I'm gonna say a few words and I'm out. A lot of the issues that's going on in our community are self-inflicted wounds. Let me tell y'all something. You know, God, listen, I know y'all might not want to hear that God talk, but I'm gonna keep it 100 with y'all. Whatever you want to call it, God, the universe, the law of nature, whatever you want to call it, has a way of sending people to deal with you. If you don't want to humble yourself and get right, then something can, and a lot of times does, happen. And I tell you, most of the time people get warnings. Usually there are warnings. You're arrested. You're on probation. Warning. You're not taking heed. Your little brother just died. Like all these tragic events happening all around you. Those are warnings, warning signs. And it's hard. It can be hard to take accountability, to face what's in the mirror. But you have to, because if you redirect the blame, if you shift it and say all these things that are happening in my life that are negative are because of them and that person and this person, and you don't do nothing to take accountability for your own self, family, it will lead you to an emotional disaster. You are literally under the influence of a divisive spirit. You're under the influence of a lying spirit. A spirit that's telling you lies that you are now believing to try to make yourself feel better, to try to justify some evil that you're about to do. And I feel most bad. I feel the worst. And the reason why I'm making this story is because as a father, I couldn't help, like, when I see this girl, when I hear about his daughter, 19, fighting to see her daddy executed and can't even get that. Oh God, that's too much to fathom. For that man to sit in that jail cell for 16 years, not able to raise his kid and all that, like every day that's torture. Every day you got a bad conscience. You got to wake up like, come on, family. We have got to do better. We've got to change our mentalities, our minds. And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to get out of here for real. Listen, me personally, this man you see right here, although I am African-American, I don't have anything to do with Mr. Johnson. And I will never allow somebody to cause me to answer for the actions of another man. So don't throw black men in this pool and say, oh, black men as this. No. I am my own man. You're not going to throw me in this pool. You're not going to throw me in a category of and I ain't saying that because I think I'm better and all this stuff. I'm just saying there's bad in our community and there's other things that are going on. There's positive and negative in our communities. And we learn lessons from them all. We learn lessons from them all. The most important thing for me was this man's name and his death to mean something to our communities. And I hope it means something to you. I hope it causes you to take accountability fully for yourself and your actions. If all hell is breaking out in your life today, I need you to do one thing, to not do one thing and to do another thing. I need you to not blame others, even if they have a hand in what's going on around you. I need you to not do that. And I need you to control the controllable, which is yourself, to deal with what's in the mirror, to humble yourself. I've never seen a person who prophesied evil on their own life be successful. If you want positive results, speak positivity, believe positively. And if you ain't get nothing from this video, get this. Leave no room in your life for evil. Leave no room in your life, in your mind for negativity. Leave no space in your life and in your mind for negativity. Because that little seed can grow into something that can destroy your whole life. Leave room for positivity only. Positivity don't always sound like smiles and foolishness. When you're a man, positivity is maturity. It sounds mature. I've seen this happen too many times. Like, share, subscribe, family. Rest in peace. To this man, condolences to his daughter and the law enforcement officer who was killed on that day.